Well, God bless you, everyone, and thank you so very much for joining us tonight. My name is Apostle Lance Bellamy. I want to welcome everyone to another broadcast of the Apostolic Council. And it is my pleasure to have you here with us and to have you be a part of the broadcast, because it wouldn't be what it will be without your participation and without your engagement. And so thank you all for taking a few minutes out of your walk of faith to join us, to be a part of it. And we're going to ask that you join in and share with us. Add your comments, add your thoughts. We can see your comments in the thread, in the comment section. And so we would love to have you guys participate with us and be a part of the broadcast. And so with that being said, I want to welcome everyone to the broadcast and to the latest meeting of our Apostolic Council. We have with us Apostle Vincent Poole, Lady Jolynn Poole, Prophet Rachel Castille, and Prophet Catalina Scott. And my name again is Apostle Lance Bellamy. Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining in and being a part of it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our topic, our thought for today, and begin to engage in our conversation and discussion around the devil. The devil made me do it. That old adage, is that real? Is it even something that we as kingdom believers should be concerned with? How do we handle that? So many people use that as a part of their rationale around evil and their rationale around the obstacles that they face in their lives. But let's talk about it tonight. So I'm going to toss that out there. Apostle Vince, why don't you kind of lead us into your thoughts around that, and we'll begin to chop it up right here.
Well, my thoughts, as I shared in our meeting on last week, is that has never been a part of my belief structure. I have never actually fell into the aspect of the devil being in control of my life, or the demonology philosophy that goes along with a lot of people's religious constructs, if you will. In my relationship with Elohim, that has never been a major factor. I always saw Calvary's cross as a position of the defeat of Satan and putting me in a position of being above. I was always a firm gravitator to Luke 10:19. That was just one of the basic fundamentals of my life. Behold, I give unto you power over all the power of the enemy, to tread on serpents and scorpions and all of that good stuff. But my major focus was over all the power of the enemy. So that said to me, the enemy has no place and position of power or authority over me. So I never even, it used to just irk me, to be honest with you, to hear people give so much credence to the devil. I saw people as if they were devil worshipers, for lack of better terminology. It was always, their focus was the power of the devil rather than the power of the Lord. I always saw that as backwards. So this particular discussion, I found it, the second part of it said, in other myths about Satan, Satan was dethroned. They talked about, they've come up with a whole lot of names for him over the years. But, it said to you, your enemy, the devil, goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can devour. If you know anything about old lions, they're not as quick or fast as they used to be. So they use the roar, to, as we used to say, a bluff, to bring out the fear factor. And so that is how I saw the enemy. His bluff had been called. That's where I was. That's where my position has always been concerning those things.
Okay. All right. Prophet Castille, I'm going to bounce over to you. What do you think?
Okay. I just think about, like, I've seen in my own life and just in the lives of Christians that, like, we almost just we point to the devil as a reason for what we're experiencing, and that kind of like takes away all the responsibility of our own heart, our own character, our own development. And I think it's not served us well by posing him as like this more powerful being that's influencing me. And yeah, I began to grow whenever I got out of that, and realizing that the way I see demons and the devil now is it's almost like a big brother, kind of influencing you in the direction that you're already wanting to go in. So it's like, it's not that they're not real, they're there. Demons are real. They have motives, depending on whatever type of spirit that they are. But it more so reveals to me something in my heart and something that I need to work on, an area of like a weak point in my character. And really, that's something I can grow in my sonship with God. So that's helped me um, kind of dialogue with God in some area. And I've begun to grow and realize that I almost see the devil as like a trainer showing me where I need to improve, where I'm operating in something that's not my real identity. So that's really set me free in not having this big looming picture of this scary force that yeah, we're like trying to pray against the devil. Yeah, so that's my perspective.
All right. Well, before we go on to the next two presenters tonight, I want to encourage everyone that's listening in to share your thoughts, your comments. Feel free to do so. We can see your comments live as they come in, and we would like to get a chance to address them. So feel free to give your comments and your thoughts in the comment section. Lady Jolynn, your thoughts. Why don't you give your opening comments on the devil?
Well, my thoughts are very similar to those of my husband. I've never been one to give the devil any real credence. I always thought of evil as something outside of me, something outside of my environment, because I refuse to let, even before I became a believer, I refused to let something outside of me govern me. If I could at all I guess it's because I was willful. I had absolutely no intentions of letting anything or anybody upset my relationship. And to me, that's what the devil always appeared to be. Always seemed to be something that was going to upset your life, disrupt your life, change your life for the worse. And I've never accepted that. I've never accepted him as having validity. I agree with Rachel that demons exist. You know, there was a period in my life where casting them out and that kind of thing was important, but it's not anything that I've never embraced for my own life.
Okay. All right. Prophet Scott, coming over to you. I know you've got some pretty interesting thoughts on this. I'm sure you do. You got interesting thoughts on everything.
Yeah. So
why don't you share them with the listening audience?
It's more alongside with Rachel, you know what I'm saying? Being able to blame stuff on the demonic. on the dark side absolves you of responsibility for your own life and accountability for your own life. It's not to say that we don't wrestle with some darkness in those areas, but it's your responsibility to come out of those things and to seek whatever help and freedom or whatever deliverance that you need to take care of in order to come out of those things. You can't keep on blaming it on, well, I have, it's a family curse or it's this, is that. But yeah, where's your responsibility though? When are you going to take responsibility and change those things in your life? When are you going to be a good steward over the life that you were given by Elohim and be kingdom? Like, when are you going to do what you're supposed to do? Because we have families that have never went through generational curses, and all they've ever known is generational blessings. But that does not mean that accountability skips those generations. Because even in that, some people just never want to be accountable. And it's easy to say, oh, the devil is busy, instead of saying, no, you spent your light bill money at the casino and that's why your lights might be cut off. You know what I'm saying? Don't have nothing to do with the devil. It got to do with you being irresponsible. So let's be responsible, you know what I'm saying? And in those areas where we are battling darkness, let's go get the help if you don't know how to do that on your own. So it's like, there was a time, because of the family that I grew up in, where I didn't understand, you know what I'm saying, how, I was like, oh, the devil busy and things like that when I was younger. But I never forget, I had my road to Damascus moment. Nelson was like in kindergarten, and I remember walking through, I was in a place where I was denying who Yeshua was. And I remember walking through my house and I was blinded through white light, and Yeshua was like, why you don't want to believe in me? And I was like, okay. And then I asked a question. I said, why is it that I get to this point and it seemed like I could never move past this point? And Dad said, you don't give me all of you, so I don't give you all of what you can be. And even at that point, I didn't give over my life fully to walk right. But from that moment on, I knew it was my responsibility. I could no longer blame it on darkness, because Father let me know straight up, it's you. You're blocking me from moving forward, because you stopping me. So I'm gonna stop. I can't give you more than what you give me. So that's where I'm at.
That's where we want to start. So let me ask you a question then. So we all agree that evil is in the earth. We all agree that there are some wicked, evil things that are perpetrated by others, against others, that take place in the earth. Is it possible that the devil is a construct of man's desire to explain evil apart from God? Is it possible that the devil has become man's construct to explain evil separate from God? Because if I can point it toward the devil, then I absolve God of being involved with anything evil. For God is love. And we know the scenario there. So I want to put that out there, and I'd like us to kind of touch on that a little bit about, is the devil the scapegoat for evil so that God can be absolved from evil?
Wow.
And think about it now. Think about it. We were created in the image of God. Everything that we see was created in the image of God. We know man fell and became something other than God. Is it possible that in an effort to explain evil, the devil was created rather than addressing where it really came from? That's just a question. I'm not posing that as a reality. I just like us to discuss that.
Sure.
Disagree with that premise if you'd like, but feel free to go ahead. Go in, Prophet Castille, go in.
Okay, so I would say I disagree with that, but I do see us as people use him that way. I don't think he's a construct of our minds. I think he really is a force in the earth. And But I see it as, okay, there's fallenness and then there's alignment with God. So there are spirits that are fallen, and then there are spirits that are in alignment. In the same way for us as sons, as people, um, it's just back to not taking responsibility. I can blame it on the fallen spirits for my fallen condition, but I still see it as we're all created in the image of God. Well, we are made in the image of God as people, but we are all God's creation. We're made with a purpose, and we can either be walking in it or not walking in it. So, yeah, I think the way we fixate on the devil, um, we're not arriving to actual clarity or real answers for the evil in the world um, by fixating on the spirits, because then we never actually put our hearts in the light. I think that's how the devil is so big, is that we don't walk in the light. So it's easy to just keep this narrative about the evil spirits, about the devil, because we don't want to be seen. And really, it speaks to how much we're not really in God's presence. And I think religion has a big part in that, that religion is a place of darkness. But if we think that is the light, we get to keep this storyline going. And it's just these bad guys and these good guys. And we got to watch out for the bad guys. And we're going to keep you safe here in religion, which is just another place of darkness. So as the sons decide to come into the light, we can see all things. Like it says, the spiritual judge all things we can see. So that's what I feel like God is doing. God's turning the light on. It's not that the devil isn't real or Satan. The devil is kind of this character that we have. But yeah, it's not that he's not real. It's just we get to see him as he truly is. And we get to see ourselves as we truly are, which is a very revealing thing if we've been used to living in religion, getting to just blame everything on the evil spirits. And it's really a picture of the spirits can see us like a mirror. They're like, we see what's really going on in your heart. And we kind of start freaking out whenever we're about to get exposed, in a sense. So we deflect and blame it on the enemy, or blame it on other people. But that's kind of that taunting that we can almost have with evil spirits. Like, I'm being tormented with things I've done. I've been tormented with accusations and all kinds of stuff. It kind of speaks to what we're not willing to bring into the light that makes it tormenting. Once we can bring it in the light of relationship with God, there's nothing I'm trying to prevent from happening. I've come into the light, and I know I'm loved in this place. I see my flaws, but then being in the presence of God is a purifying experience. So I know that stuff isn't me, so I just think I see it in terms of light and darkness, and whether us as sons are actually in the light, or if we're in an illusion, living in a delusion about how right we are in some way. Whenever the enemy is about to expose something about us, we have to shove that away from us because we're not willing to see that in ourselves yet. So.
Okay. All right. Again, the question is, or the premise of the question is the devil a creation, a construct created by man to explain evil, in an attempt to absolve God as the creator of all things of that evil? That's just a question that I'd like us to ponder. I have an opinion. I'm going to give mine last, but I have an opinion as well. But Lady Jolene, I'm gonna jump to you. Apostle Vincent, coming to you next. But Lady Jolene, your thoughts?
I believe that the devil or whatever evil construct exists, and I believe, the devil is only one aspect of it. There's plenty of evil, plenty of demonic entities, and plenty of things that are negative and evil. And I believe that they are real and that they're necessary. They're necessary. And I believe that they are an aspect They represent an aspect of God himself because they represent freedom of choice. If you don't have one versus the other, you have no choice. You have no ability or necessity to choose between them. So yes, I'm firmly down on the side that evil is necessary. Evil is prevalent. Evil isn't going anywhere. And evil is an aspect that Father Elohim has created because it's a necessary thing for us to confront and to deal with and to understand and to overcome. Love is one, hate is the other. There's always an opposite.
Yep. Okay. Hang on, Apostle Vince. Prophet Scott, let me come to you first before I go to Apostle Vince, since I led off with him. Your thoughts?
So yeah, I don't think that the devil is just a construct, but you know, I do understand that Satan is a real entity, and so are demons real entities. But yes, God is the creator of all things. So I think that it bothers people to realize that there's both darkness and light. Although God is the creator of all things, he is the father of light. So he doesn't move in darkness. But where there's light, there's also shadow. There's also darkness. You know, it's all in there. But in order for us to choose him, the father of light, the father of all creation, you know, like Mom said, we had to have a choice. And if we only had light, where is the choice? If we only had light, how do we grow into maturity by putting these things down and taking responsibility and accountability for those things that are in darkness in us, moving into the light and moving into kingdom? Like, where's that choice to say, I want to do that? No, I don't really want to do that. I'm not ready for that right now. So I do believe that God created all things, right, and darkness is a part of that. But you know, God is the father of light. Period. There is no darkness in him, but there is darkness in the creation of the dimension that we're in.
Okay. Apostle Vince, your thought.
I like what everybody's saying. One of the aspects I'm going to key in on that Rachel said was that she saw Satan or the devil as like a personal trainer. And I like that concept because, as Catalina just finished saying, there's always, and Joe said also, there's always the opposite side of the coin. There's hate and love, and there's good and evil. And God is the creator of all things. And if we had no darkness, and I like that, where is the challenge to us? Remember, one of the things that the Lord himself is attributed to having had said is that the enemy cometh, or the thief cometh, but he findeth nothing of his in me.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there's nothing there for him to attach himself to or to draw out of. So, and I like the thing that Catalina was saying about it. It gives us, or it challenges us to mature, to grow up. Because we've used the devil, and I do believe we've used him as a scapegoat for many of our own offenses. And the challenge of the thing that we don't really want to see, that the heart is wicked and deceitful above all things. And so a heart that has not been cleansed and purged, we don't want to face up to, so we have to find something else to blame it on. And therefore shed us of the responsibility of walking in the light for ourselves, or not wanting to really look at the darkness that's within, the darkness that needs to be overcome. And in my estimation, that keeps believers that hold on to that mentality about the devil being this all-powerful being. It keeps them with a victim mentality and never allows them to become victors or walk in the true nature of the overcomer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask this question. So, give an analogy, and then we can all chime in. We all agree that life emanates from the Creator. Anything that is devoid of life begins to spoil, begins to rot,
Mm-hmm.
begins to decay. Take a branch off a tree, take an arm off of a human, take a pork chop out of a pig, a steak out of a cow. If you leave it to itself, apart from the life that that animal or that living being gave it, it begins to decay and it begins to rot, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that evil is the reality of separation from life? Not the devil, but the fact that that separate entity has begun to decay, begun to rot, begun to degrade, and thus evil is birthed, just like decay and rot is birthed in that living thing that is separate from that which gave it life.
Mm.
Ooh.
Question.
So I think of it as a consciousness. So yeah, if you think you're separated, you begin, like, that belief leads to evil, I think. That's how I see it.
Okay.
So whenever I think I'm separated from God, I'm not living from union. I'm not living from, like you're saying, being plugged into life. There's no reason to die if I'm one with life itself and that
Agreed.
reality. So yeah, I see it almost as a state of being that comes from a belief that I'm separate from God.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody, feel free to chime in.
So I don't believe that, because there are people that do not associate themselves whatsoever with a higher power or any of those things, that do beautiful things on this earth and walk in the utmost integrity and respect for other people. And then we have people, as history has shown us, that will take the word of God or God or his holy, anything that's supposed to be holy, and twist it into the most evil, vile, corruptible thing, and still swear to God all they got to do is say, I repent. And walk in it. But repentance is actually turning away, but religion has taught them that all I have to do is say, oh, God, forgive me, and I'm okay. But in their mind, because of what religion has taught them, they believe that they're okay. I just had somebody throw that at me today. And then I'm just like, what? That's not how repentance works, or forgiveness. Like, you're not sorry. You don't actually not want to do that thing anymore. You want to continue doing that thing while saying, Lord, forgive me. And that's not repentance, but they swear to God that they're connected to the Father. But we know as kingdom people that they are not connected to the Father, because when you're truly connected to Elohim, you get away with nothing. You get away with nothing. Your like everything that don't even look right before it even come out your mouth, or finish the thought, like, you're immediately convicted, because you're held to a higher standard when you're connected to the kingdom. But when you just connected to religion, they think they're connected to God, and they do some terrible things. I mean, I know people who like, oh no, I'm not. Like, I have an uncle who, like, he hates religion, and I understand and whatever, but he's a beautiful person. Like, I can trust him with almost anything. He's my godfather. He's just a great person, but he he has an issue with religion, as he should, and he hasn't realized that God and religion aren't the same thing. So I don't believe that that the construct of evil even has to do with who you are as a person, like your intention from the beginning.
So what you're saying, and again, Lady Jolene, I'm coming to you. So Prophet Scott, you're saying that evil then is something that we are you saying that evil is something that we are tempted with rather than something that is birthed within those without light or those without life?
Yes, I believe that we're always faced with a choice to do one thing or another, and we always make the choice whether or not we want to go in that direction or not. We haven't gotten into the other deeper stuff like generational curses, but we're just talking about the regular everyday things. You're faced with a choice. Like one thing I was telling my friend the other week, like I told her, I said, hey, you just had a money test. She was walking out of the store and realized the person gave her too much money. Okay, something as simple as that. She could have kept it. It was their mistake. But she went back in, hey, this isn't mine. It's
right.
As simple as that from day to day. Like you could have made an evil choice or you could have made a good choice. Does that mean that they don't know God or spend time in their prayer closet? You know, but for the regular day-to-day stuff, it's what you choose. Which side you gonna go on?
So we're talking about the devil. We're talking about the reality of the devil and his role or its role in the evil that we see in the earth. Okay, because we all associate the devil with evil. As a matter of fact, you take the D off of devil, that's what you get is evil, right? We've all heard that before. So Lady Jolene, I'm going to come to you and ask, evil originates where in your intimacy with Elohim? How have you resolved that issue?
Largely by ignoring it.
Okay.
Actually, I think that your analogy is really good. I think that the separation of separation of our being, our spirit from Elohim leads us to be open to do things that are not sanctioned by Elohim. I think that irregardless of religion, we know that there's a real problem with how we've been taught and trained, in not just in Christianity, but in almost all religions, have people who are good, people who are bad. They have concepts that are good, concepts that are bad, that we may consider bad. The presence of evil, I actively avoid. If something seems to me to be tending that way, I will shut it off. I'll walk away. I will not engage or discuss or give it a place in my psyche. There are situations going on all around me in particular that if I chose to address them, that I could address them as being evil, address them from a point of view of evil. But they're not me. They are other people's actions, which they have a right to do. They are basically what I'm trying to say is I believe it's outside of me. I don't accept that that the born again me still has that evil component. I think it was wiped away. I'm not suppressing
and
it.
I think everyone on this, I think everyone on the panel would agree absolutely 100%, Lady Jolene, with that positioning and that position that you've taken and outlined. But we have this, and Apostle Vince, we have this understanding, this idea of the devil, which is the father of evil. As a matter of fact, scriptures describe him as the father of lies.
Mm-hmm.
When he speaks a lie, he speaks of himself. I mean, we've been talking about the devil for a long time. And the question becomes that we're discussing tonight is, there is one devil. We've all agreed that the devil is not omnipresent. So he can only be in one place at one time. So how can, if it's the devil doing this, how can someone in one part of the world be influenced to do evil at the same time that someone is in another part of the world being influenced to do the same evil by the same devil? How does that happen? And how have you reconciled that in your intimacy with Elohim?
I don't. Again, it's outside of me. You know, I think we're focusing on things that really have no real outline or real significance about the person of the devil or Satan. You know, I can't spend my time focusing on someone that's doing evil over on that side of the world or someone that's doing evil on another side of the world. Because there, as we opened up with the broadcast, there is a demonic kingdom. And there is a hierarchy of demonic beings. Now, we've talked about, or I don't know how many people have studied those things. We talked about strong men or the roots of causes of those things and where Satan is the prince of the power of the air and all of those such things. But I think the ideology of the devil, just like the ideology of hell, I agree with what you said. It's a construct of a man's mind, because there is nothing even scripturally that tells you two things. It doesn't tell you that hell is on fire, nor does it tell you that Satan is in hell. So I think our ideology, this religious ideology about the identity of Satan and the demonic world itself, has been overly exaggerated, and I think it's been given an identity much greater than it actually is. And so people do things out of their own selves. Again, I go back to that thing about the heart being wicked and deceitful. And an unregenerate heart is the foundation of evil, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And so, and that unregenerate heart has not tapped into an intimate relationship with Elohim.
Okay. All right.
And so my focus has never, I told you in my opening statement, my focus has never been on those things. I don't see Satan or the devil as this all-powerful being that religion has made him to be. I don't see that. You know,
Okay.
I agree with what the Lord said when he said, I saw Satan fall like lightning. And you see, if we go back to where Satan actually is, you know, we talk about the first heaven, or second heaven, third heaven, and then even the heavens above. And, you know, and you go back to the book of Job. It said the sons of God, that's one thing. It said the sons of God came to present themselves. And then listen to what it said. And Satan came also. He was not even recognized as a son of God. a lower being. But we've elevated him to a place that does not belong to him.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, and I'm sorry, Apostle, were you finished?
One other thing, I want to reiterate this. It says, your enemy, the devil, goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can. We know that the Lord's title is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Satan is an imitator. And he was a defeated foe. If we believe in the Messiah, who was said at resurrection or during the time of that time, he took the keys to death, hell, and the grave. And he took the sting out of death and gave you victory over the grave. How come we magnify and we get so focused on Satan and the power of the devil? That's my question. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. So it's a bit back on just the topic of like the heart and evil, and whether God created evil too. So I'm just thinking like God is righteousness, like God knows the right action in every situation. So I feel like the full range of like, okay, this is love, this is hate. I see it like what God is as love, it's making the right choice in a situation. So I see it like a spectrum that in knowing God and in being in relationship with God, we know like what is the right action in a situation, what is love, what is balance. So evil is just using our free will and kind of choosing whatever we want on that spectrum. So in a sense, it's like, yes, God has created the whole spectrum, but what makes God God is knowing what is actually the right thing for each person, what his will is like balance for us, like what we're really created for. I could choose to live all different kinds of lives because it all falls on the spectrum. But in being born again, like we become aware of that union. We become aware of the voice that much more. We're plugged into life. We're not living from a separation consciousness. And yeah, when we think we're separated, we start using our free will. Like, say somebody does something wrong against us, I just choose bitterness. I choose unforgiveness. I choose resentment, anger, hate, murder. Like that's all on the spectrum. Or I could choose forgiveness. I could choose, to reach out to them in some way, or to forgive, or to prophesy over them, or like there's all these different choices. And in every situation, we're guided by the Spirit on what is actually right. We shouldn't ever make a law out of, hey, you should always do this. It always looks this way, for the positive or the negative. So I think that's what makes, or that's what shows us what evil is. Evil is not the right action in that situation. It has the wrong effect on people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We have a comment from the audience, and it says, when we practice righteousness and leverage the remission of sin before the Father, darkness and evil is not a portion in our reality. Saying that the program of evil and darkness is hardwired within creation itself. We have to make a conscious decision to choose life, light, and right. So Kevin suggests that the choice is there for us to make in a conscious way of life, light, and right.
Right.
And I'm sure everyone agrees with that, but I'm sure everyone equally agrees that that's not always the choice that we make. And in the instances that it is not the choice that is not the choice that we make, is it the devil making us do it? Or is it something within that is driving us down that path? Don't everybody jump in at the same time. It's warm up in here. It's what it's hot up
Well,
in here.
personally, I don't believe the devil has any control whatsoever.
Okay.
So I think all of those choices are self-made choices. Again, it's a construct of looking into your own heart, being real with yourself. Stop trying to find blame. Stop going back to the Adamic nature. The male man was a finger pointer because when he was challenged after succumbing to the suggestions of the serpent and was hiding, when asked, "What have you done?" What did he do? He pointed fingers at the woman and at God. It's time for you to accept responsibility for your own actions and stop trying to finger point and find blame with someone else or apply blame to someone else. Accept the responsibility and get your heart right.
Yep. All right, Apostle Castille, you just joined the fray, so I'm going to throw you into the deep end. We're talking about, did the devil make me do it? And what say you?
So I've been listening to y'all. I wasn't able to get on, but I've been listening and stuff. So I'm up to speed on a few things. So no, nothing is anti our free will. Everything that happens is all our choice, and it's the result of our choices. Whether we're blaming God or blaming the devil or blaming somebody else, it's just blame to avoid accountability. It's all our fault, whether it's good or bad or whatever. We did it. And it's a group project, which means we all help to do it. I used to get in trouble as a kid, not because I was the one that did it, but because I convinced somebody else to go do stuff. And it was, well, why did you listen? It's a group project. We help each other act up. We help each other ruin the world, or we help each other benefit the world. But it's a group project that everyone holds some level of responsibility for. Now, if we're talking about were y'all getting to the part of talking about the devil and what his role is and stuff?
Feel free to go right ahead.
Last 15.
Jump in. I threw you in the deep end.
All right. So something that people usually don't talk about is that Satan is a cherubim, and people don't really know what cherubim are. Cherubim are mirrors in that they reflect an identity. They reflect an aspect of whatever's in front of it. They're covering because they're absorbing an image. But cherubim are mirrors. Satan specifically being an anointed cherubim, meaning that he's an anointed mirror, which makes him an immortal mirror, which means he's something you can't kill. He's not supposed to die the same way you're not supposed to die. Because his function as the adversary, though evil is not bad, and I personally believe that evil and bad are two different things, that evil is more so a spectrum of action, whether positive or negative, and good and bad kind of is a separate spectrum on whether something's appropriate or inappropriate, where it's possible to do a good thing for the wrong reasons. It's possible to do a bad thing for the right reasons. So, for example, violence on its own is considered an evil quality. It's a negative thing. There's a good way that could fit into reality if you're protecting and you're defending and you're guarding, but there's a bad way that can be presented if you're let's just say homicidal or genocidal individual, where that's a inappropriate use of something as controversial as violence. So Satan specifically is a mirror, just going back to him being a mirror, because he's a cherubim that's anointed. His function as the adversary is to confront us. Where he exists in the temple is in the outer court, which means that you only encounter Satan if you're in the outer court. He's only your adversary if you're functioning in the outer court or below. If you're seated in heavenly places where you belong, he's not your adversary. He's still an adversary. In fact, he fights for you rather than against you, because he's not actually out of alignment. He's doing what he was made to do. Just talking about his mirroring aspect is that one of his functions is that he reveals the evil within humanity so that it can be revealed to them that they come out of it. I dare to say Satan's one of the best deliverance ministers on the planet.
Okay.
Because his function is still kingdom. He's not an anti-kingdom individual. He's just great accountability, and that's uncomfortable. That if you're encountering money issues, it's because you have money issues in your heart. If you're encountering anger issues, it's because you got anger issues. Why do things keep happening in this area? It's because you haven't conquered that area yet. You're not seated in heavenly places in that area. His job is to confront you till you come out of it. His whole role is to make down low, down below so uncomfortable that you don't live there. Which is why I see him, as far as our relationship to him and as sons, as a personal trainer, in that he helps us to see the issues in us that we can step back into our heavenly identity. That I don't know if the rest of you or anyone else has prayed a prayer like this, but I have, where I'm like, God, show me my faults, show me my flaws, hold a mirror to my face so I can see my issues. Expose me to me, show me my issues. Well, shoot, Satan's the mirror that he sends to show you your issues. Because usually after praying something like that, everything you don't like starts happening immediately. And we like, oh, the devil busy. Yes, he's supposed to be. You asked for it. This is what show me looks like. This is what expose me looks like. This is what purge the evil out of me looks like, is let's put you in a situation that stirs up your flesh so your flesh can be purged out of you. You say you want to get rid of anger issues? All right. Here comes a week of everybody making you mad all day, every day, so that you can have. I can't say I want to be a bodybuilder or anything like that if I don't work out. Well, this is the exercise. I want to grow in healing. Guess what? Somebody got to be sick. Somebody got to get injured. Hey, I want to move in dead raising. 60 people died. Dang. What is that? The devil busy? That's his fault? No, that's my fault. I'm the one said I wanted to be life, light, and truth. So it's not odd that darkness, death, and deception follow me around, because they're trying to train me. So that's my angle on the devil topic, is that we've made an enemy out of somebody that's actually ordained by the kingdom to purge us. That he actually fights for the kingdom, not against it. He's not. Satan specifically isn't even a part of a separate kingdom. He's not the ruler of darkness that's anti-kingdom. That's not the structure that we usually think it is. He still works as a part of Elohim's government.
So have we created this identity, in your opinion, Apostle? Have we created this identity of this being called Satan or the devil or Lucifer? And I know there's a whole lot of opinions around whether or not Satan and Lucifer are the same person and blah, blah, blah. But have we created this identity to demonize and to be the blame, the source of blame for the evil in the world?
Yeah, it has been. It's been used that way. But
Okay.
I'd say Satan existed long before that, but we just kind of found somebody to blame.
Right.
Where,
but I mean,
for example, there's a story that I heard where, and I'm gonna butcher the story, so let's just prepare for that. I'm finna butcher it because I'm just going for key points. Where it's a story of like a farmer, and he has like a horse or a donkey tied up, And Satan goes and lets the horse loose. And then the horse runs and he tears up some stuff. And then the farmer gets mad and he goes and attacks somebody else. And then a whole chain of events happens as a result of the reactions that people keep having to things not going their way. And at the end, they say, devil, why did you do all of that? He said, all I did was untie the rope. Like I said, I'm finna butcher the story. It's a longer version. I don't feel like reading that. But oftentimes we'll blame the whole story on the devil, not taking accountability for the majority of this happened because I reacted wrong when something didn't go my way. So did the devil, let's just say, start it? Maybe. Am I the actual cause of all the rest of the chaos? Most likely.
Interesting. Anyone want to take a stab at the things that Nelson's just kind of tossed out on the table?
I just wanted to add, like when we're talking about, taking responsibility, how what we've all been talking about when it comes to dealing with Satan, it's all about responsibility. I just wanted to chime in and say that's something that I teach my kids because I teach 4th grade. So I teach them, they're like, oh, as soon as they think you're not looking, they try to do something. And I tell them all the time, I say, this is a judge of your character. It's what you do when you think people are not looking at you that is a judge of who you are. That's who you truly are. Everything that you do when you think the eyes are not on you, when you think no one's looking at you, that's how you know you have good character or bad character or a little bit iffy. But that's the judge of your character. When nobody is looking and you think that you can't get caught, what's the decision you're going to make? Which way you gonna go? And that in itself is what that is. That's what, what I'm saying, judges who your character is. That's what judges everything. It's not the devil. What choice are you gonna make when you think nobody's watching?
Okay. So let me toss this out there. All right. And again, I'm sure everybody on this panel, this round table tonight will agree that, God, Elohim, the Godhead, is the creator of all things. Lucifer, Satan, the devil included. Okay? Because if not, then we deny the omnipotence, the creation of Elohim. And I think everybody will agree that as being born again, we are in a different category than those that are not born again. If not, you can chime in when you get your shot. So let me ask this question. Oftentimes people will adamantly and vehemently say, the good that happened to me, God did that. God is the author of the good that happened to me. Conversely, they will jump to the other side of the spectrum and say, the devil is the author of the evil that happened to me. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm hearing everybody on this panel, me included, say that the devil isn't the author of all that has gone bad in your life.
Right.
So how do we reconcile those two things in light of, God is the author of all good in my life and the devil is the author of all bad in my life, but we know that's not the case. Lady Jolene, your thoughts?
I think that kind of stark dichotomy is something that I believe it's a construct of basically of religion that that evil is something that can get you. It's something that I'm losing my thought here. I like the analogy that both Rachel and Nelson have given about the personal trainer. the ability to accept negative circumstances and not consider them evil, to consider them something that you've been ordained to go through, is a much more helpful attitude to have. We like to blame something other than God because we don't want to believe that there is something that could overtake us or overcome us or happen to us that we don't like. The fact that we don't like something doesn't mean that it's not going to happen or that it's meant for our evil or our detriment. So the whole concept, the whole construct of God is good, he's only good, he always does only good, and the devil is bad, and the devil is my adversary, and he's out to get me, it's a negative thing that will keep us from ever growing. It'll keep us stuck and trapped in being subjected to outside forces. And that doesn't allow us to grow. It doesn't allow us to change. It doesn't allow us to be who God intended us to be.
Okay. Apostle Vince, I'm going to come. Hang on for a second, Rachel.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Apostle Vince, I'm going to come to you. You've sat back and absorbed a lot of this. So over the last few minutes, kind of weigh in on that.
I agree a lot with some of the things that have been said, but I want to look at a couple of the things that was gleaned out of our audience. I was watching some of the things. Sister Schubeck said she was reminded of Joseph. And Brother Warren talked about the position of Job. And one of the things I like that he said, because in Job's life, you asked a question about the author of evil. You know, we say God is the author of all good and Satan is the author of all. But when you go back and look at Job, he said the things that I feared the most have come upon me. So, and then, you know, in our walk of faith, we know that fear is the antithesis of faith. So does that mean it is your own personal fear that is the foundation of some of these things? And then we go back to finger pointing. We want to make it the devil. Then when you look at the story of Joseph, when he was forgiving his brothers, he said, you meant it for evil. He was talking to people. I didn't have nothing to do with the devil. He said, but God meant it for my good. And he said, then you go back to the statement, all things work together for good. It didn't say all things were good. It said all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So that it means that everything that's bad or that comes upon you from a negative standpoint, we want to say that the devil is busy, or the devil caused these things to happen in my life, or were there a necessity for growth and development, or even the fulfillment of your assignment? So I look at all of these things and weigh in. See, and again, in my estimation and in my humble opinion, religion has magnified the quote unquote the position and power of the devil, who was defeated at Calvary. So how does a defeated foe have so much power in your life? Would be my question concerning those things. And personally, I've never bought that, and I don't buy.
Okay. Rachel?
So to your question, I would say evil, it's not the devil, but evil, or more so, it's not God. You were saying like
Right.
if God is God doing the evil and the good. The evil I feel is people, really. It's the evil in our hearts as people doing evil to other people. And like Dad, like you said, that all things work together for our good. That's God's ability to work with what has been done and make it right and teach us in it. But yeah, the evil is just the evil in people's hearts. And we've fixated on the devil, that the devil's busy. But yeah, like I saw Evelyn said something about like trafficking. Like, what about kids that are being trafficked? Is that the devil? No, there are evil people trafficking children right now.
Right.
And then bringing in fear too. You talked about like what I fear has come upon me. When you look at how people operate, they look for who is afraid and they know they can get away with it. So yeah, that's the two sides. What we're afraid of does come upon us. And evil people sense the fear and know like, oh, this is the perfect person to choose, who won't expose me. And then God, who is good, that, like you were saying, is all the good things in my life, that's from God. And that is true. God is good. And he's so good that he can even heal and mend the evil done by people to other people.
Okay. Nelson, go ahead. You said you wanted to add a comment.
Yeah. So there's a verse in Isaiah that I like, and I taught on it because it always it always bothers people who have a certain theology, where it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, wait, the devil must be off the hook if God say he the one doing the evil too. Which then again goes into my understanding of good and of evil and bad being different things. But that also kind of still goes with what I was saying, is that Satan specifically is still an agent of the kingdom. He still works for Elohim. That, like, they referenced the story of Job. He said, hey, what was you doing? Like, notice he was in heaven coming back from work. It's like, what was you doing? I was like, oh, I was just going to and fro on the earth, seeing who I can devour. Because it's his domain. He wasn't doing nothing. He had no business. If he was an enemy of the throne, why is he in the throne talking about the work he doing? The Father, like, we need to get rid of you. You shouldn't be doing that. You never see a verse, not ever, not once, of God chastising Satan, where he's like, you leave my kids alone. I'm sick of you. It never happens because he works for him. He just don't do all the stuff that most of humanity puts on him. He has a purpose behind his chaos.
So Nelson, let me interrupt you here. So the narrative that we have, the popular narrative around the devil, Satan, Lucifer, whichever, again, is that a creation of, is it a construct that men have created to just explain evil, to absolve themselves and perhaps even absolve God of evil? Of course, you just read the passage where even the writers of old attributed evil to God.
Yeah. I'd more so chalk it up to poor theology passed down mouth to mouth for so long that I'm like, this is stuff that's left in the Bible even after it's been messed over. So even after all the agendas and all the mistranslations and the misunderstanding, they still left it in the King James Bible. All these things, it's still there. Where he's saying, hey, I'm the one doing the good and the evil. It's like, well, hold on then. Like, they left it there. So it's just poor theology at this point. For something, and I don't want to get off topic, but I've long said most people, like, one of my favorite quotes is that the First Amendment and the Bible have to be two of the most well-quoted documents that the majority have not read. Where it's quoted the most by people who didn't read it.
Right. The Bible says, and the First Amendment says.
Yeah. And in reality, most people have not read the full Bible. Most people haven't read it. They've heard concepts.
Right.
They have references that come from the Bible, but the majority of it is concepts.
Okay.
That's
right.
loosely based around a source material. So it's like, really? Yeah, and they can show you a verse about Satan. They're like, look, he's over there bothering good old Job. It's like, he does seem like a bad guy. You forget the fact that the father agreed to this.
He did.
And he kind of dared the father. He's like, all right, I'm gonna see if I can make him curse you. I'm gonna get rid of all his friends and family and see what he do. How Job see it? All the stuff I'm scared of came right for me. What does that mean? That's the stuff that was in Job's heart. He was doing all that stuff because he didn't want to lose his friends and family, and then lost his friends and family, and he got to see if he'd still keep God. Wow. Eventually he got it back, but still. That sounds like every other test I've had in my life of, well, let's see.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to give any comments on what we've been talking about tonight?
I'll read a question in my comment section. This is Uncle Perry. He asked, could the God of the Bible be Satan? When reading the attributes of God in Deuteronomy 20:10-14, and then Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 through 29, this God allowed immoral behavior such as rape, murder, and slavery. This is not of the true creator or the source we call God.
Okay.
So what do y'all have to say? I guess the context on those verses.
I will say, and since someone else asked the question, I can feel at liberty to answer, to chime in like the rest of us. One of the things that we have to be careful of, and I've found this to be so very true, and I've said this 100% of the time, is that when you begin to try to interpret God, you fall. I mean, the wheels begin to come off the rail. Anytime you're trying to interpret what and who God is from what someone says God is, I think you get into trouble. I think the greatest approach to understanding Elohim is to allow Elohim to tell you who they are, to tell you what they want, to tell you what they expect of you. So many of us are not yet at that place where we can hear the voice of Elohim unless it's coming from someone else talking about what Elohim is saying to them, to the other person. And I think that is a major part of how people begin to go off rails. Because when I'm interpreting what someone else said, then I deny Elohim the right to say about themselves. You say, well, no, I don't. Of course you do. Because the minute Elohim begins to say something to us, we immediately began to reference what Elohim said against what someone else said Elohim said. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my point, to that point. Irregardless of what's written in scripture, what is Elohim saying to us? What is Elohim saying to you? And so I'm gonna answer one of that question, one of the previous questions that I even asked. I do believe that evil is born out of the corruption that comes from a separation from life. I know we talked about, one would ask the question, well, what about saved folk, church folk? Church folk and saved folk or born again folk, just because they say they are, their lifestyle and their lives, their actions speaks volumes above their words. Evil is the result, just like spoilage, rot is the result of that which was once alive, now separated from that which gave them life. I do believe that that's the birthplace of evil, is the separation from that which gives life. And that separation manifests in all types of ways. I do not believe that those of us that are heirs of the kingdom are subject to Satan or the whims of evil. I do not believe that. I believe sometimes we fall victim to what evil people do, okay? But we are ourselves not subject to the whims of evil wanting to overtake us and evil having its way with us. So that's my position on, you know, whether or not God is the devil of the Old Testament. And I think that's what he said. What I think his question was it, Rachel? Is it possible that God is the devil of
Yeah,
the Old Testament?
could the God of the Bible be Satan was the initial question.
Yes. Could the God of the Bible be Satan? And again, I absolutely believe that we get into trouble trying to interpret who God is. We are much better served by letting Elohim or God tell us who they are themselves. That's my input.
I think that there's, in regard to that question, I think that there are levels of satanic evil activities. There's a personal level. There's the things that affect us as individuals, but there's definitely corporate, cosmic, even evil on a huge scale. As he mentioned, slavery, child porn, trafficking. Those are still acts of individuals.
Yes.
It comes down to a personal reaction. And in those cases where it's a reaction that is ungodly because these people don't know God, they don't have a relationship with God, they don't know Elohim. They are, as you just said, Lance, it's separated. And that separation is, that kind of evil can't be addressed by reason or the bottom line, as Nelson said, out of court. These people are not in relationship. And you cannot ascribe to the Lord, to Elohim, actions for people who have rejected him.
Just to add to it, I just wanted to say that I know that in Christianity, the Bible is like a really big thing. But over here, like we're all kingdom, we don't really regard the Bible as the word of God as it's taught in Christianity. We heed the audible voice of God in direct relationship with Elohim. So we know that book has been translated, touched, and all of those things. Can you get inspiration from parts of it and some of it? Absolutely, but it's not where we stand. Our stance is always the audible voice of God in intimacy. So I don't spend, although I have read the Bible cover to cover in my Christianity walk, since I've come out of Christianity, I don't really regard the Bible the way that it's taught in Christianity. So it's a bunch of stuff in there that could be true, could not be true, but it's so much easier to have a conversation with God himself. It's so much easier to have a conversation with Mother herself and ask them directly and get the question answered directly, instead of going through all of these different avenues trying to figure out who said what and what they meant by that. That happened so long ago. It's just so much easier to just go directly to the source. So I'm not sure what it was meant by those scriptures and this, that, and the other, but I know exactly who Elohim is to me, and that direct relationship that I have with them, is something that I'll never regard what someone else is saying over what the voice is saying to me directly.
Amen. Amen. Nelson, you had a point you wanted to make.
Yeah. So, I wrote my own creation story. And I did make a YouTube video on it. It's The Creation by Nelson. It's on my YouTube channel, Cave of Mystery. It's not long, But I kind of talk about how this happened, and that question kind of fits into that. Because for a certain period of time, it can be said that Satan was kind of God over the earth, because mankind wasn't in their dominion up until Yeshua's work. The way that I phrase it in my own revelation, kind of detailing those events, is that mankind got somewhat convinced out of their alignment and out of their identity, and then they submitted themselves under things that they were meant to rule over. At that point, Satan, who is over the outer court to a certain extent, became like a god to man. You become what you behold. They ended up becoming like who ruled the world at that time because of their misalignment. Purpose of the born again experience is to bring you back into alignment out of that former system. You take authority back where you always should have had it. So there's even a point of the restoration of all things in that, is that as we come back into our rightful alignment, the world begins to match us because we were always meant to rule it. But talking about the evil that does happen on the earth, some of it's just evil people, some of it's evil spirits working with evil people. Some of it is evil spirits working against ignorant people, people who just don't know their alignment, which is still outer court. Where there was a time the devil probably was beating me up at one point in my life. That's not true anymore. That hadn't been true for a very long time. But that might be someone else's experience because of where they're living life. If you're living from the kingdom, you encounter that a little different than if you're out of the kingdom entirely, functioning in the outer court or under the outer court. So it really goes to where you're living, because people still have free will. You don't get love without free will. That's the bargain that God played when he made man. God wanted real love. You need free will, because robots don't love.
That's right. Obligation doesn't compel love. That is a fact.
Yeah. So in order for us to have real love, there needs to be a choice. And some of those choices even God doesn't like. So when it comes to the why doesn't God intervene? Well, God knew this is that we weren't going to choose stuff he liked when he made us and gave us free will.
Okay.
But that's also a rest that comes with being in the end result, knowing that everything will be all right in the end. That, as cliche as it may sound, might look rough currently, we'll be fine later.
Good. All right. Anybody else want to add any comments? Apostle Vince, Lady Joe?
I'm good.
Prophet Scott? Okay, you're on mute, by the way.
You know, I'm not in my room by myself, so I'm trying to make sure we don't have no extra sounds happening.
Okay. Okay. Apostle Vince.
I think we ought to look at some of the comments that were made by those that joined us tonight, because we skipped over quite a few.
So as we go back through, we started with Evelyn asking about child trafficking and adults. We are adults, but what about things that happening to a child? We talked a little bit about that. Evelyn said this as well. She said, I can testify that I have witnessed where I have physically seen a spirit with my natural eyes. Evil spirits, do they exist?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to go all the way around the table, so I'm going to start with Rachel. You were the one that was most vocal in that.
Okay.
Tackle evil spirits for, give us about a minute and a half to 2 minute dissertation on evil spirits and their role in this thing that we call life.
Okay, the best kind of metaphor I use for them is like a older brother that's kind of jacked up in his heart, seeing something in the younger kid and like being a bad influence in a sense. And the more you kind of yield to the evil spirit, the more you can kind of like merge with it in a sense. Like spirits are looking for bodies, they're looking for hosts. They're like, hey, can you cast me into the pigs if you're going to cast me out of this person? So there is a thing of them living in a host too. They can be roaming freely, they can be merged with us. That can be from, say, something generationally, they have some right to the bloodline. That's a thing. It could be some actions of my own, that I've entertained certain things. I've been doing some evil things. And then I start flocking with these evil spirits. They start to come around me because we're like in nature, in a sense. So there is a merging in a sense that you can be influenced by a spirit, you can be possessed by a spirit. Um, all of this can kind of exist in darkness. I go back to the picture of, are we in light? Um, Evil flees from the light. The fire of God, evil flees from the fire. Like they run from being in the light. They prefer to be in darkness. So as a individual person, as I start to choose the light, as I start to welcome truth into my life, the lies that I was believing, that spirit is also speaking, it becomes not tempting for me to even like buy that anymore. So I see them as like really good salesmen. If they see that you could be bought, then they just kind of encourage you like a bad influence in the neighborhood kind of thing. And the more you actually in your own heart start to say no, you start to experience deliverance. Somebody who walks in light can come and cast a demon out of you or clear the atmosphere of the demons that are influencing you from the outside. I see it as basically an unrepentant entity. So based on their heart condition, they'll go into the darkness. And the bigger thing is like anything that repents and from its own will chooses to turn into the light can be set free. And I believe that is true for evil spirits too. They're fallen, they're out of alignment. And I'm not saying many are choosing to come into an alignment, but just as an overall picture of like that of free will, they are willfully doing wrong and leading other people to do wrong as well and looking for bodies to live in too. So
Okay. Nelson, full armor riders said there's awesome articulation. Satan is a cherubim, a mirror. Let me say it right. The anointed cherubim. That's so powerful and interesting. I will dig deeper. It has intrigued my spirit man. Quickly, Nelson, just kind of revisit that for a few minutes, a minute or so, about Satan being a mirror.
Yeah, because the truth is anti what most of us are used to, in that usually what believers, non-believers, anti-believers, whatever category people might find themselves in, number one question people ask is, well, if the devil is that big and strong and he that bad, why don't this all-powerful God get rid of him? Then you find out that he's anointed. Well, what does anointed mean? That means immortal, which means he's not going to kill something he made it immortal. He blessed it so it couldn't die. Covered with the same armor the rest of us got. Which even goes with the touch not mine anointed. It takes someone anointed to bother someone else that's anointed. He's literally equipped for the task of bothering us so that we become unbotherable. And just revealing the nature of what cherubim are. Cherubim always reflect back a nature. You're looking at Revelations. You see the beast surrounding the throne, man, lion, ox, and eagle. They're reflecting back an identity. You look at the Ark of the Covenant. There's two cherubim on either side. They're reflecting back the identity of the one who sits on the mercy seat. They're mirrors. They look like who's around them the most, even more so than humans do. We take up characteristics. They fully become what they are in fellowship with. So him being a cherubim in the world He's reflecting back the negative things in the world for the ultimate end goal. See, because that's even how Satan fits into the restoration of all things, is that when there's nothing else to purge, he doesn't have anything negative to reflect.
Okay.
If there's nothing evil in us, he has no evil to present. He's trying to retire, and we keeping him in business.
Apostle Vince, Warren posted this: the King James Bible was created to control the masses. I know you've talked a lot about that. Kind of give us a quick rundown on your thoughts on what Warren said.
That's an absolute fact. King James was Catholic, was part of the Roman Catholic whole scenario. He came to the point that he wanted to get a divorce. Catholic Church denied it. Well, in essence, he said, well, I won't say what he said, but anyway, he disconnected from the Catholic Church and started the Church of England and created his own Bible. It was a necessity for King James to control both the church and the people, as Warren stated, the masses. He needed them to come to an understanding that there was no king but James. You see, because the Bible talks about us being kings and priests, and it talks about our positioning with God. Well, so King James took and changed the wording of Psalms 8. You look in the Psalms 8 Bible, the King James Bible, Psalms 8, and it talks about, "O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name, who has set thy glory above the heavens." And the question here says, what is man that
Thou art mindful of him?
thank you. Thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visitest him. Said, thou hast made him a little lower than the angels. That's an absolute lie. There was a change around, a turnaround. He said, thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, yet you crown him with glory and honor and all of those good things. Well, the original Hebrew said, thou hast created him a little lower than Elohim. Angels are not greater than man. Man is the crowning glory of creation. But again, as a control mechanism, King James wanted to brainwash the people that they were less than. And the entity that they needed to look up to first and foremost was King James. It was a control freak. It was a control mechanism. The same characteristics of religion: control, manipulation, domination. And it came out from the creation of the King James Bible. You see, the British Empire was the greatest empire known to man. And the King James Bible went around the world and had that kind of influence. That's why the King James Bible has such an impact and is so widespread and so well loved and liked and utilized. But it's in all actuality one of the worst translations out there, coming over from the original to English.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Any other comments before we get ready to close, everyone? We've kind of gotten on to the 90-minute mark. Any closing comments? I see you smiling, Prophet Scott.
Nope, I have no closing comments. This was a beautiful conversation, and I'm so excited about it.
All righty. All right. Prophet Castille.
I agree. Yeah, it just was really, really good. Good conversation. Nothing to add.
And thank you, Evelyn. I see Evelyn's comment, and I'm gonna flash it up on the screen. This was fire. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. And Lady Jolynn, any closing parting words of wisdom for the audience?
Excuse me. No, I just want to say it has been a good conversation. I would like to just make one address to what Evelyn said about being able to physically see a spirit. That's if you they can be seen by those who are inhabited by Holy Spirit. If you're filled with the presence of Mother, you have no room for that to enter into you, but you can see it in other people. So
Absolutely.
keep your eyes open.
All right. Apostle Castille, final thoughts.
Oh, me? Well, I wasn't planning on saying nothing, but let's see.
Well, did I fall in danger of giving a
Got a
microphone
whole
to a
chart.
preacher?
I got my notes
Got a
here.
whole
I guess
chart,
I
yeah.
can just start reading up. No, I'm good. I kind of got a lot done in a little bit, so I don't want to repeat myself or anything. I feel like I feel like I got it. For any further questions, I did just do a video on set on YouTube. So that's Cave of Mystery on YouTube. It just came out on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Which is
Awesome.
same thing as Satan. So
Awesome. Apostle Vince, final thoughts before we get ready to wrap it up for the night.
Pretty much, my thoughts are remaining the same. I think those ought to look within and check their own hearts and stop using the devil or that Flip Wilson mentality. The devil made me do it. Now, the devil actually has no authority in your life if you're born again. And so that becomes an excuse mechanism for not checking your own heart and for not allowing your heart to be cleansed and purged and purified by the fire of Elohim.
Amen. Well, with that being said, everyone, thank you all so very much for joining in tonight, and all of you that made comments. I would go through and read the list, but there were so many comments. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts, your comments, and being a part of the broadcast. You made it a lot richer and a lot more engaging for sharing your thoughts and your comments tonight. So thank you so very much. And I want to say to everyone that's watching, you can reach out to any one of these 6 people on the platform tonight. Apostle Vince, Lady Jolynn, Prophet Catalina Scott, and Prophet Rachel Castille, Apostle Nelson Castille. Each one of us have our own unique ministries and our own unique identities in the kingdom. And we just come together from a standpoint of fellowship and confederacy to be a part and to share and to bring a microcosm of the kingdom together with varying opinions. We didn't all disagree. We didn't all agree tonight on the broadcast, on the platform, but we all shared as Elohim was giving it to us. And that's a good thing. So thank you all so very much. Feel free to reach out to any one of us at any given time. I'm sure you can reach us on Facebook by simply searching our name out. And we really would appreciate it. And thank you also again for joining in tonight. So with that being said, thank all of you, Apostle Vince, Lady Jolynn, Prophet Scott, Prophet Castille, Apostle Castille. Thank all of you for joining in. Join us again next month for another broadcast of the Apostolic Council. Until then, be well, be blessed, and we'll see you again next month. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.